A Musical Life with singer, songwriter, and internet marketing master Dave Tamkin. Singer-songwriter Dave Tamkin hails from Chicago and currently lives in Boulder, Colorado. His music can be described as rhythmic acoustic rock and features lyrics that capture a passionate sincerity and poetic exploration of modern life. As an expert on internet marketing, Dave helps musicians and music companies like AirTurn share their message to the world. This episode of A Musical Life is brought to you by A Musical Life Mastermind. Are you a music teacher looking for better students? A musician looking for better gigs? Or a student looking for a better future? Visit amusicallifemastermind.com and answer 3 questions to get personalized advice and a free ebook on the #1 resource you need to grow your music career. Once again, that web address is amusicallifemastermind.com. Welcome to A Musical Life. I'm Hugh Sung. We're continuing our series on musical entrepreneurs with singer-songwriter and internet marketing master Dave Tamkin. I first met Dave when I was working at AirTurn. We needed help getting our internet marketing to the next level, and that's where Dave applied his magic through his consulting company, Head Above Music. I then learned that Dave is an extraordinarily talented singer and songwriter and absolutely fell in love with his unique musical style that's instantly relatable. If you're a musician looking for ways to grow your fan base, then you'll find Dave's insights and practical advice as both musician and marketer really helpful in this episode. And getting back to Dave's musical hat, his newest song, Mary, has just been released this month. Let's take a listen.
Looking for answers in some burnt grass. Nothing left of their home. A broken woman when her love was lost. Never liked to sing alone. Found a silver dollar made in 45 next to a ring made of gold. Thought it'd be enough to get her through this. At 50 miles from the road. But oh, Mary, we heard you cry. Oh, Mary, when times were low. Oh, Mary, there is nothing left here. Can still hear you singing from the road. Saw smoke paint the sky for miles. My shoes weighed heavy from the hurt. All the nights away from the one I loved, only to come home to dirt. Oh, Mary, we heard you cry. so long. Leave behind an empty bed. I can still hear the singing, the voices that danced in her head. Oh, Mary, we heard you cry. Oh, Mary, when times were low. Oh, Mary, there is nothing left here. Can still hear you singing from the road. Oh, Mary, it's time to go.
Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. I know you're getting over the flu and all, but thank you for braving such such lousy health conditions to be on the show. I have to say, I think your voice is going to sound even better with your flu voice.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast. I'm healing every day. I'm getting a little bit better,
Good.
definitely have enough energy for to speak with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, thank you for being here. You know, it's funny because as a pianist, we could be on death's door and still crawl out of bed and run our fingers over the keys. But for singers, having the flu is much more serious. It really affects you to the core.
It does, yeah. I'm not one to cancel gigs, and I had to for this evening, just for, I think, the safety of the people that I encounter. But I'm holding on. Hopefully by tomorrow I can do tomorrow night's gig and sing through it.
Well, do you have any advice for other singers as the fastest way to get over colds and flus and other ailments that plague people that depend on their voice?
Well, definitely hydrate for one. So I'm just trying to drown myself with as much water as possible. Mm-hmm. And throat coat is a savior of mine. That tea is just unbelievable.
That's awesome. Great.
Those are the two things: water and throat coat.
And probably, if you have time, some bed rest too. Although you're so busy, I don't know when you find time to even sleep.
Sleep is definitely important and hard to catch up on. But I think I had to make it a must for this one. It really knocked me out.
Now, we just heard your song "Mary," and it's absolutely gorgeous, so beautiful. You've got some really incredibly rich textures going on underneath the passionate yet folksy melody. I'm wondering if you could explain all the different musical layers you put together to create this track.
Well, I wish I could take a lot of credit for that, but I've been very fortunate to work with producer Dick Prowl and Tim King at Crown Studios in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Christina Preisman played violin on that. So the four of us were in the room with Dick Prowl really leading the charge on instrumentation and a lot of his vision on what he saw for layers. We all had our input on that, and that's one, beautiful thing about working with this crew is that we'll try anything to see if it works. So we have that freedom there. But that song is a song that was written by Chris Webb and myself in his garage one afternoon. And I brought it to Dick Prowl and his team, and it was really humbling to watch them work and put this together in the way they did.
How long did it take to put all these different layers together and to come up with all these ideas?
Well, I think there's a little over 17 tracks of violin alone.
Whoa.
That was an evening, one evening. And then it's an evening just to get the foundation down and how we wanted it, to piece it together for like the storyline. And then probably another 2 days just as far as adding, little ideas like the tambourine or just an echo on a bass drum and how many echoes are we going to, put that through. So it was a little tedious there, but a very interesting creative process that I had yet to be a part of like that. And I learned a lot. It was pretty cool.
Now, what's the song about? And I wonder if you could share the story of Mary.
Well, I was a part of a songwriting group that had to come up with a song every week, and they give you suggestions. So one week it might be a palm tree, or the other might be houses. So this one happened to be 420, and since Mary had a lot to do with smoking grass, and not so much something I knew too much about. I opened it up with looking for answers in some burnt grass. And I found myself standing in a field rather than talking about weed. And I came up with this kind of imaginary story about this woman that passed away in a house fire when the love of her life left, and you can still kind of hear her ghost singing around the ashes. And that's kind of where I based it from, and just let it tell itself. But for other people, it might have a different meaning, and I hope people connect with it in different ways.
So these were all your own lyrics, your own idea, your own story, so to speak. It wasn't based on anybody real, I hope.
It wasn't based on anybody real, and not all my own, as I brought this storyline to Chris Webb, and we kind of start, piecing the story together and coming up with different lines. And again, with the situation with Dick Prowl, that we tried a bunch of different lines to see if it worked, and told this little story at the end.
That is so cool. And I understand this is going to be paired with at least a couple other songs. Is that right? Is this going to be part of an album?
We're going to put it together in an EP probably after this year, but every month I plan on releasing a new one. So then we're always being creative. We always have new content, which I'm sure you're going to bring up later as far as content is concerned.
Sure.
But something to bring the audience something new every month. And instead of giving it to them all at once, and I'm working with Matt Doherty, who's a great artist, and he's going to come up with a new kind of single cover for every single one of them, and we'll see what happens. And at the end of the year, I'll probably throw them all together on one CD if people still buy CDs.
That is such a cool idea. It's kind of the anti-Netflix, where, with Netflix, we get an entire season at one batch, which is where, of course, the record industry was. They would have an album of 12 or 13 tracks. But nowadays, it sounds like it makes more sense to release your music just a song at a time. Is this a new business model? Is this just a different kind of a marketing tact?
Well, it is now for, I guess, not something new from myself. Dickie is Dick Prowl's band with Christina Priceman, and Dick Prowl released a few songs last year, one once a month. And really just came out of necessity of saying, hey, I'm in the studio for X amount of time. Let's get this done, and then I'll be back. Living in Boulder, Colorado, it's a little difficult to get out to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as much as I would like to. But I think as far as marketing is concerned, it's definitely going to be fun to come up with something new every month and share it with everybody.
That is incredible. Well, so for folks who are brand new to your music, what other songs would you recommend that they listen to get a feel for your style of songwriting?
Well, I think my last EP that I put out is called Cedar, and you could find that anywhere on iTunes, Bandcamp, on my website, davetamkin.com. But the song Cedar and Little World, Missing on You, it's a bunch of different songs, different genres. I think I was still trying to find something different in that EP, and thus gives you a little variety of different stuff. But also the live EP, Let Me Hear You Scream, is something that I'm very proud of, because I got to share a stage with some of my closest friends on that CD, and we recorded the whole show at the Double Door in Chicago. And although it's quite a few years old, it's still something that brings me back, and proud to play music with those people.
Happily ever after is where I'd like to be. It came after Sunday, Monday would be a better day for me. And all those things I could have changed, I've changed them now. Come back and change.
So what inspired you to get into music in the first place? Did you have music lessons as a kid, or was it a special experience going to a show? What got you into music?
Well, as I'm watching my niece, grow old, and I think to the ripe age of 3.5 now. She puts on the Dalen show, and I'm being reminded by my cousins and my family members that when I was that age, there was the Dave show. So all the way up until probably 3rd grade, I wanted to sing, I wanted to play guitar, and ever since then, like 3rd, 4th grade, I started taking guitar lessons.
Oh.
All the way up to high school with jazz band, and then college, I studied classical guitar for 2.5 years, and I love playing music. I like knowing that there's someone else out there that might not feel alone after hearing something that I write that they can relate to, and I just love it. I don't know how else to put it. It makes waking up every day a new adventure.
So when you were taking guitar lessons before college, did you have classical training, or was it mostly just pop guitar before you jumped into the classical world?
It was jazz. I was in jazz band a little bit in high school, and I just like the freedom of being able to improvise when I had my 30 seconds, if that, or how many measures that I had. And then classical guitar came just because it was something that I felt like I could nail. It was precise, and it wasn't so much of my input into it, except for the way that I experienced that song. So not until after college that I jump into, I guess, the pop world, where I could start singing in clubs and bars and bring some of that playing to a different stage.
I'm jealous because you can sing. You've got an awesome voice. I can't sing to save my life. Did you take vocal lessons as well? Voice lessons? Singing lessons?
I did, yes. All through high school I did. And then college we had to. So, but by no means, I thank you for the compliment on being a singer.
I'm just jealous.
I do that out of necessity. So,
well, it's great though that you did get the training that you needed to sound as good as you do. So there is a foundation there. You weren't just kind of groping on your own. You had some guidance early on.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I had it earlier after listening to some of the early songs that I've a little hard to listen to. But
So you've got this unique style that I've read as being described. I think it's a great description. It's described as rhythmic acoustic rock. I'm wondering if you could share some of your musical inspirations that helped you craft your particular style.
Well, I love the percussiveness of artists like Willie Porter, Ani DeFranco, Keller Williams, and they always seem to have more than one thing going on while they were playing. And coming from the classical background at DePaul, I love that there was a bass line melody and your fingers were doing the melody as well. So Ani DeFranco and Willie Porter, they're doing that kind of in a singer-songwriter sense. And it was definitely inspiring to me. So if anything, I play my acoustic very percussively. I love bringing different sounds and effects to it. I use a loop pedal when I can, and I feel like, it adds to the song. So I'm laying down rhythms and then playing leads over it. So I would say those three are definitely my main influences as far as how and why I play guitar the way I do.
Years rising, I met my friend, blackbird over a schoolyard fence, dancing up dreams on asphalt leaves. Our lives drifting, our lives drifting. Time drives more frequently. It's running out of old memories. Old phone silent brought up the dawn. My friend, you're
That's so cool. So you really literally could be a one-man show and have your whole rhythm section, thanks to your loop pedal, accompanying you at the same time.
Yep.
That is so neat. Now, how much of your work do you do all by yourself, and how much do you do within the setting of a band when you have multiple members?
I'd say probably 90% solo, although I wish I was probably 90% with the band. There's something special about sharing the stage and learning from the musicians around you. I'm very fortunate to play with some great musicians that I learn from every day. And I just wish there was more of that. But I think as priorities change, and it's just a little harder to get everybody together on the same page for rehearsals and for shows.
So these are mostly pickup artists. You don't have a dedicated band per se that's committed to, say, a dozen shows or 100 shows together for a set schedule. You're basically just trying to find who's available at any given time. Is that right?
But they are the core group.
I see.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so they are the same people. So one drummer is in Chicago, Brian Sansom, one drummer, Amy Shelley is out here in Denver. So depending on what's called for and where I'm located at that time, I try to make something happen.
Very cool. So I wanted to touch a little bit about your current career. It's funny. It doesn't matter if you're in classical, rock, pop, jazz, anything. These days it's just really tough to make a living as a musician. I don't imagine there's ever been a time that it hasn't been difficult. But I was reading in another interview that I think this past year you toured relentlessly, giving over 232 shows in a given year. That sounds astonishing. That's almost every day. So I guess my question is, how do you get booked for so many shows?
Well, that video that you heard that from was probably about 5 years old. So as much as I wish that was the case right now. But at the time, I had an agent that was doing that. I had two agents, one in Chicago, and I had a college booking agent as well. So we were playing, I was on the road probably 8 months out of the year, sometimes playing 1 to 2 shows a day.
Wow. Now, did those agents find you, or did you find them? How does that connection happen? How do you find an agent that can be that effective for you?
Well, Chicago Shoeshine Boy Productions is the name of the agency that I was working with at the time, and that was more of an organic introduction. And they were a pleasure to work with, and still when I could come back to Chicago, I give them a shout. And then the college booking agent was something that I submitted to, and I was fortunate enough to get picked up by W2 Entertainment. And from there, they submit you along with other artists to different colleges, and they have showcases and conferences where you get to perform, and then students come and book you for X amount of shows throughout the year.
Wow. So
and then with that, you play maybe a cafeteria, but you better make sure you play the club at night in the local town to make it worth it.
So in this situation, it sounds like having an agent can be really, really beneficial, really helpful.
I think so. As later we'll talk about different careers that you wanted to point on, but I think really practicing and knowing your instrument and being a performer should be what you're really great at, and you should know how to market yourself. But I think finding someone to help book you and market you and let that be their profession and let them practice that and hone their skills and be good at doing that is part of building a good team. And I think that's very important to if you want to do this for a living. Some musicians can do it all, but I found it very helpful to not be on the phone trying to book shows all day, while someone who was able to do that and was very good at doing that.
If you don't mind me asking, for folks who don't have an agent or who have never worked with an agent, how much does it cost? Do they just take a percentage of the proceeds that you get from a gig, or is there a fixed amount per month? How does that generally work? I'm sure there are all different kinds of models depending on the agency.
Yes, anywhere from 10 to 20% depending on the agency.
Interesting.
So, and it could be based on different payment structures too. So if you're getting paid $1,000, they take X amount. Anything under $1,000 or anything over $1,500, they take X amount. Kind of just depends on the agency.
Very, very cool. So with the right agent, you really could make a fairly decent living, albeit a very busy living.
You can, and I think the trick though nowadays is you have to be doing that before an agent's even interested in it. So you have to be showing that you can go out there, play how many shows a year, how large is your social reach on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, how large is your email list. If a CD drops, how many CDs are you selling? Because they want to know that they're, not working from, day one. Because they've spent so many years building up their name and their career to deal with the musicians that they're dealing with. They want to know that they're dealing with musicians that are all in.
We're going to touch on some of those aspects a little bit later in the interview, but I understand that you actually studied business at one point. And
I did actually. I graduated from DePaul with business marketing.
So were you double major in guitar, classical guitar, and business?
Oh, I wish. Dude, how I wish. I got nervous at the end of the third year of music school at DePaul. I just didn't. I just felt having a business degree in my back pocket was a bigger safety net than having the music degree at that time. Being just a classical guitarist, I wasn't getting out of it. I think I was going more towards the singer-songwriter aspect of it, and I didn't feel like I needed the credentials for the singer-songwriter in a classical degree if I was going to be a classical guitarist, or I just thought that the business degree would help me if I fell on my ass later.
So when you went into business, when you took these business classes, were you thinking of going into the corporate world, or were you actually thinking of using that business degree for your own music?
It was all music. I was all in. All I wanted to do was tour. And I felt like taking the many contract law classes that I could take, accounting, economics, anything that can support me financially, diversify playing music not only for just live gigs, but for selling CDs, for licensing them in films. I just wanted to know the business end of it. And I was interning at Aware Records at the time, and I just heard everyone talking about that aspect of the music business that I knew nothing about. So having a business degree felt like I would have more knowledge that I wasn't getting with my current classes.
So you actually started your own consultation company, which is called Head Above Consulting. I'm wondering, can you tell us what you do with your company? What do you specialize in with this particular venture?
Well, one thing I learned from going back as far as MySpace was that I built a career around a social platform where I did not own the contact information from the fans that I was lucky enough to have at that time.
Now, just wanted to interject for some of you younger listeners who may not even know this, but MySpace used to be the huge social network on the web. This was the Facebook for musicians back in the day, right? I mean, this was a huge thing. And when Facebook was just getting started, nobody heard about Facebook. But MySpace was a place where it was actually designed specifically for musicians, where bands could post pictures and audio tracks, and it was a way to help them grow their fan base. And it was extraordinarily popular for a number of years before, maybe you can take over.
Before Facebook came along. And at that time, everyone migrated over to a new platform. And at that time, I had somewhere around 30,000 MySpace fans. And I think even if you go there now, you can still check it out. It's somewhere hanging around 21 or 19,000. But nobody even goes on that site anymore.
Yeah.
But if I would have made more of an effort to capture every single email and bring them back to my website, I think I would be in a much different place in my music career right now. And from the consulting aspect of what I do now and work with different products, mostly music products now, that if we can capture that email and continue to make a relationship with that consumer and that product and build information and supply them with entertaining aspects to keep them coming back and not only learning more about the product, but buying more product, that's my main goal. So I try to optimize websites to capture that lead. And then from there, take anything that comes in through their social networks from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, funnel it back to their website, which captures that email. And from there, build out different automated email platforms, and then even work with Google AdWords and affiliate management setup.
Okay, now you've just mentioned a whole bunch of business and technical terms that might have just flown over the heads of most of the listeners of my show, but we'll come around to that in a little bit. But how did you get so good at understanding how to use the internet to market, to advertise, to find customers, and really to grow your consultation business? How did you get so good at that? Did you take computer classes or internet classes when you were in school?
I didn't. I had a good teacher, and I helped start a company about 5-6 years ago. And from there, working in e-commerce day in, day out, 12, 14 hours, 16 hours a day and continuing to try to play music and gig. I think I learned the ins and outs from a very different angle. Because of having so many years as a musician, I knew what it took to get people to a venue. So now I just needed to get people to a website. And having a different perspective on that, with, again, like I said, a good teacher, I think that's what helped.
Now, I'm going to take a little tangent here. I read someplace that you actually took a 5-year hiatus. I'm assuming it's a 5-year hiatus from music. I'm wondering if you can maybe speak to that. What did you do during that time?
Well, I worked on that. I worked with the company on e-commerce. So that's what I did during that time. I moved from Chicago to Denver, and it was a different market, and the touring was just getting to me a little bit. I found my wife, Ann, and just wanted to kind of build a different life. So from day in, day out, I was just taking classes on e-commerce and learning about everything I could about Facebook marketing, Google marketing, affiliate marketing. And I think to the point where I realized that wasn't me, and music was still really what I wanted to do, or at least be surrounded by people that played music and wanted to play music, but also worked with music products to help other musicians. And that was something that I can get into. So I'm now only really working with music products and people that are in the music world.
That is so cool. Did you find that your time, quote unquote, away from being a musician yourself gave you more creative inspiration to come when you came back?
Absolutely. I think there comes a point where life is short, and what you do with your time is important here because it goes by really fast. And if you're not doing your passion, I think it weighs on you emotionally and mentally. And I think I came back with a lot of material because I just wasn't letting it out for that long.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to dig a little deeper into some of the nuts and bolts of your multiple businesses. It sounds like you have a lot of things going on. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing just rough ratios or rough percentages. How much of your revenue now comes from your consultation work with Head Above Consulting, and how much of it comes from your music, just the actual performance or recording or sales from any of those pieces of content that you produce musically?
I would say probably it's 70% consulting and 30% music. But I think that's coming out of 5 years of not even being around. I mean, there's music that you hear from someone that worked hard enough to get their song on the radio that you haven't heard from since that one song on the radio. So I'm very honored just to be able to play as much as I can now. And I think having this new project with new songs coming out every month will help offset that ratio. And I'd like to get it reversed. I'd like to, find work with the clients that I'm working now and be playing, music more often.
So just focusing on your music end of the business, I'm wondering, do you have multiple revenue streams from that? In other words, could you share perhaps the different kinds of ways that you make money through your music? Is it all just from the fees that you get from live shows, or is there a ratio you can share from the sales of your CDs or your electronic albums or licensing or anything like that? I'm wondering if you could if you wouldn't mind sharing, again, just rough ratios or rough percentages of how you actually make money with your music.
Well, I'm very fortunate enough to have iTunes and Spotify still work strong for me as far as selling the music part of it. So I'd say about 30% comes in from actually selling CDs from shows to, online music, and 70% would be playing live.
Very, very cool. And with the sales of those CDs, how much of those are actual physical CDs, and how much of that is going through an online channel like iTunes or Spotify?
Well, more so prior to this year, I would say more was over the internet. But something that I've been doing lately and been helping for the last year, because I was playing so much, I was putting a dollar value on how much that CD is worth to an audience member. And what I've done instead of, I've changed it to donations.
Oh.
And I'll make the announcement on stage, and I'll say that I have CDs available here today. Please pay as much as you think that CD is worth to you. If you don't have any money on you today and feel like you'd like to take this home, please feel free to take one and, share it with a friend. But some people will come in and throw $5 down for that CD. Some people will come in and throw $20. I've received a $50 bill for that CD. And I think it's just putting that out there and giving someone a choice rather than saying, hey, this 6-song EP is worth $5. After an experience of listening to a show, might have more of an emotional connection with the last hour that we shared together than the $5 that CD has to offer.
And making it available in that way probably does two things. I'm wondering, first off, if it actually makes more money just to ask for people to pay what they want, but also I think it would probably engender a closer relationship. People would want to be with you. I mean, you're a friendly guy, your generosity, they would be much more attuned to becoming a fan and following you from that act of generosity. When they know they could take it for free, but they appreciate you, and then suddenly there's a deeper relationship with the customer or the audience member, we should say. I'm wondering, does the revenue actually come up to be the same, a little bit less, a little bit more through that donation model?
A lot more.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing.
And it was hard to do at first, but so far it's worked. And it might not even feel like a lot more from show to show, but definitely from month to month, you can see that those CDs were more valuable because of it.
That's that element of trusting the people who are coming, trusting that if your music is good, people will reciprocate with their own generosity, both in terms of financial generosity and fandom, I suppose.
I would rather have that relationship with any audience member than saying this is, but again, that's for me. And also coming from a point where I'm making 70% of my income somewhere else. So I have a little bit more of a freedom to do that rather than if I was on the road every day, that might be a little bit more of a risk for me. And I'm not sure, if I would do that or not. So it might not be for everybody. But when I could afford that risk, so far it's worked out for me.
That's so cool. Now, you've been talking a little bit about your incredible expertise in online marketing, and that's actually how you and I came to work together back when I was at AirTurn. We consulted with you, and you helped revamp our website and our web marketing and helped us to blow our targets out of the water, and you were such an incredible help, and we became good friends from that time of working together. I'm wondering, what advice could you share for the folks out there who maybe are musicians and they understand that they need to market themselves somehow to get their music heard or get their artistry out there, but they have no idea where to start? I mean, it feels like it's a similar question I remember asking when I was back at AirTurn. How in the world do we do this? How do we market? And we look to you for some terrific answers, and you helped so generously. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing just some general ideas to help people get started? Because there's so much out there. It can be very, very intimidating, even just to get started.
Well, I think, content is king, and that is something I learned very early while doing online marketing. And the more that you can give your fans to share and relate to, the better, even if it's a daily blog or journal, something to share, something creatively with your audience. And if it takes grabbing an email to do that, to give that to them so they're a part of even like a VIP group, I think that's where you can start building an audience. And having them come to your website and say, hey, give me your email and I will give you something creatively for free. And be a part of this club, be a part of this journey for me. And I think building that, and same as we did with AirTurn, was we started just saying, hey, we'll give you, someone wrote this awesome book, From Paper to Pixels. Who was the author on that? I don't know. Hugh Sung, there it is, author Hugh Sung.
Yeah.
And what we did was say, give us your email and we'll give you the top 10 reasons why you should turn your paper to pixels. And what we did was we started collecting emails and grew, into 60,000 emails in a short time, where then we could write them again and say, hey, did you learn this today? What about this? This is a way you can use AirTurn. And as a musician, from my point of view, here's a free song for you, or here's a video that we just did at band practice last night. Something just to continue to connect with your audience would be number one to start helping you market your song. And something I could even be better at myself, because every day I'm helping other people to do this. It's like being a chef. Sometimes you come home and after cooking all day, maybe I'll just take SpaghettiOs.
So it sounds like it really necessitates, in this day and age, you really need a website of some sort. I mean, unfortunately for the musicians who are trying to stay away from technology, I guess you really can't avoid it. You need a website. You need to find a way to connect with other people digitally. I guess it doesn't work just to play your instrument by yourself, sound great, and hope that people will just recognize you, eh?
That would be my advice. I mean, I'm sure there's some outliers there that make a great word of mouth campaign happen, but I'm all about data and stats and knowing how many people have come to a website, how many people have come to your shows, how many people have bought your CDs, and those are numbers I can work with.
We've been talking about how intimidating it can be. There's so many things for people to wrap their heads around: Facebook and Twitter and websites and blogs and YouTube and all this stuff. And, frankly, as musicians, most of us would just rather be in our practice rooms and play music. Why deal with all this extra stuff? And I know many of us are trained to believe that if we're good enough, people will simply come and discover us, right? It just seems to be so much work to have to learn all these new technologies and websites and even just the concepts of marketing. How do you address musicians that have those reservations?
Well, coming from DePaul, in the basements of DePaul, where you had to study 6 hours, practice 6 hours a day to get that one piece at the end of the semester that might only last 3 minutes to 20 minutes long. Even now when I speak at CU Boulder, there's musicians, violinists, saxophone players, piano players, that they're not sure how to be an entrepreneur. And they already had that tenacity to put that much time and heart and effort into a piece, that many hours a day, to nail a piece of music that they can take that and do whatever they want with it. It's already inside them. So if they need to go out and learn more about marketing, about how social ads work, or how to reach an audience, that's already in them. And I think that if they can be encouraged to do that more, and even if more music schools even had classes not on just music business like I did, but just what it takes to brand yourself as an artist would really be helpful.
I think you're touching on something very, very important. The fact that, as intimidated as some musicians may feel, what you're saying is they really have everything they need already there just from the fact that they know how to work hard. They know how to learn music. We're learning new music all the time. We're working hours on our instrument. And, if we could just flip a little bit of a switch there, learning all this extra stuff for marketing really is just a piece of cake compared to learning a lick on a guitar or a piano.
Well, I think I noticed it for the first time when it really hit home for me when I saw, people in a salary position. And it was where if, being a business owner, how much are you going to pay someone in order for them to work hard enough versus commission to make more than what their salary is? A musician has no choice but to work.
Yeah.
You have to practice. No matter how much you're getting paid, in order to nail your skill, you show up and you play. And I think you take that into the business world, it's already ingrained. You show up and you work your off to get it done.
Excellent points. Wow. Well, I just want to close off by encouraging folks to head over to your website, not only your personal website, but also the Head Above Consulting website. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, but I'm just going to speak from personal testimony. Actually, when I was getting ready to start a musical life, you were the first person I consulted to get some advice to really launch this brand new venture from scratch with no audience, nobody out there. And I knew the one person that I could turn to for expert advice to reach a lot of people very, very quickly was you. And you were incredibly, incredibly helpful. And I want to encourage all the folks out there who are thinking about serious careers in music and really serious about getting the message of who they are and what they're doing out there to a much wider audience, to get in touch with you, to consider working with you to build their marketing campaigns to grow in ways that they probably can't even imagine.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Hugh. That means a lot.
I can't thank you.
I really appreciate it. I love doing this, and it's fun for me, and it's especially fun to work with musicians that I can relate to. So thank you for the opportunity and even giving me that phone call, because it's always a pleasure to work with you, and I learn a lot every day from you. So thank you.
Well, like I said, because you are a musician, you understand what musicians are thinking through, their fears, their reservations, and yet you're also so good at walking them through the steps and the tools that they need to take their business. And their art is, as much as we may not like to say it, their art is a business if they want to make a living at it, and to take that business to the next level and really do amazing things. You're the man that they really should get in touch with. So I hope a lot of folks will contact you after listening to this wonderful interview.
Well, now I do as well. I didn't even know you're going to put that plug in. So thank you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have more of you on the show, and some exciting things coming up that I can't wait to announce that I'm looking forward to having you be a part of to help some of the folks that are connecting with this show in powerful ways. So I'm really looking forward to our next get-together online, and we're going to share some interesting things with our audience and special members. We'll talk about that very, very soon.
Sounds good, Hugh. Have a great morning. Thank you very much.
You too. Thanks so much for being on the show. This episode of A Musical Life has been brought to you by A Musical Life Mastermind. What is a mastermind? A mastermind is a group of peers that encourage, support, and share ideas to help each other achieve success. My goal for this mastermind group is to equip you with everything you need to create your own business or career track as a musician and artist. Through tutorials, forums, and weekly live mastermind video meetings, you'll get personalized help and inspiration to achieve your musical dreams. To learn more, visit amusicallifemastermind.com. Once again, that web address is amusicallifemastermind.com. For links to Dave's music and websites, as well as a list of the songs featured in this episode, visit the show notes at amusicallife.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter to get the latest updates on my special series on musical entrepreneurs. And if you enjoy this show, I hope you'll take a moment to post a quick review on iTunes by going to amusicallife.com/review. Don't forget, you can also send me your feedback or your own musical stories by voicemail by going to amusicallife.com and looking for the Send Voicemail tab along the right side of the screen with your smartphone or computer. I'd love to hear from you, and if you're a musician or band, I'd love to help promote your music. Until next time, I'm Hugh Sung, and I wish you a musical life.